Welcome to the Refs Need Love To podcast, a show that gives you a real, raw, and behind-the-scenes view of one of the hardest jobs on the pitch, the referee. I'm your host, David Gerson, the creator of Refs Need Love To, and I'm excited to have you here today. We're going to be discussing something, a response to one I got in the mailbag. Someone actually asked me about what do I do in my pregame to ensure success. So I think there's a lot of things, and I started writing them down, that I took for granted. And every day you're out there, you pick up something new. And I've picked up probably 15 to 20 things that help me have success on the pitch week after week. And I wanted to share them here with you today. So first things first. Number one for me, you got to get a good night's sleep. I don't know how people operate on less than 5 or 6 hours of sleep. My wife and I in particular, we really like getting the minimum 7, generally 8, and sometimes even 9. And that requires you to go to bed at 10 p.m. I mean, lights out, eyes shut, in bed so that you can wake up at 6 a.m. the next morning and be refreshed. And I think that's really, really important. There's so much good data out there about the power of sleep, not only for your physical well-being, but your mental well-being. And I think that's really important for you to be on the pitch. If you're going to be out partying the night before, good luck on the pitch. It's going to look like you've been out partying the night before when you're trying to run around the pitch and you want to have your mind fresh and clean. And I think that's really, really important. So I would say first things first, get a good night of sleep. Also the night before, again, doing a carb load. So again, thinking about, okay, I'm going to be running around on the pitch tomorrow for, 5 miles, 10 miles, 15 miles. What are the foods that one would need to eat so that their body is able to respond to those demands? So much like a runner, you'd be doing a carb load. So again, could be pastas, things of that nature, whole grains would be, very, very good. But again, you're trying to eat clean. You don't want to be eating lots of fried foods, lots of saturated fats, anything that's going to be really heavy on you and not move through your system easily. So lots of vegetables for me, lots of fruits, things that have high fiber. So again, those are the types of items that, I'm looking for and I'm thinking about the night before a match. So certainly not drinking heavily, maybe one beer, okay, or glass of wine, that should be fine. But I would be, again, thinking about what I'm doing, not having things that are high in salt, drinking lots of water at dinner. And yes, means I'll have to get up a couple times in the night to use the bathroom. But I think, again, that's important to do so that when you're on the pitch, you're not feeling dehydrated. The next thing in the morning is I'm planning out, okay, when do I need to get up so I have plenty of time to do all the things that I need to do next morning? So planning out, okay, if I've got a 9 a.m. match and the field is 20 minutes away, what time do I need to get up so I can let the dogs out, so I can get dressed, so I can get my contacts in, so I can eat my breakfast, do all the things that, I know I need to do to get my water jug ready to go so that I can be at the field in plenty of time. I like doing that the night before so that the day of I'm not scrambling. I don't like it when I get to the pitch and I'm not prepared because it just throws off my whole routine. And you're going to see I've got like a good 15 things that I do on my morning of. And so I want to make sure I've got time for every single one of those. And if I don't do one of them, then I really don't feel ready for the match. And I'm not a type A person at all. But I would tell you that I feel it's a big deal to, if these things are helpful for you, to be doing them before you step onto the pitch. The next thing is eating a healthy breakfast. So for me, kind of my go-to for the mornings when I'm going to be refereeing is going to be oatmeal and fruit. So blueberries and bananas are kind of my go-to to include in my oatmeal. But again, good, healthy carbs and fiber that's going to stay with you throughout the day and allow you to draw upon the energy within that food to be able to respond long-term through the match. And again, I think this is so important for when you're on the pitch is, again, feeling good, feeling strong. And that has to do with, the food you eat and the sleep that you're getting before the match. I would also say the hydration. So I love my coffee. I mean, I got my coffee, right here, but I'm not drinking a huge carafe of coffee in the morning because I don't want to dehydrate myself. I may have a small coffee, but then immediately I'm going to my water. And I also add a hydration powder to it. Historically, I've used Liquid IV. Now I use something called Magnac. And I got to tell you, I mean, full disclosure, they sent me it for free to try out. And I still have yet to record a review. But in the 3 weekends that I've used it, it's got no added sugar to it. I haven't had any issues with hydration. And I don't traditionally, I'll just be saying that. I have had moments in time, especially on those crazy, crazy hot days. It's a little cooler out right now. But that's a big deal for me, is the water I'm drinking. I actually have a water bottle I take with me in the car, and I think this is about 20 ounces of water here. And then I've got a jug that's 64 ounces. And even in 2 matches, I have drank both of them completely empty by the time I finish 2 matches. That's how much water I drink. And I'm drinking water before I get to that thing I use in the car. And then I'm drinking that 64 ounce jug when I'm at the fields. And that helps me stay hydrated, because the last thing I want is to have cramps or a pulled muscle or just not feel myself or get a headache out there. That's not going to be good for being a good referee if you feel like you're not hydrated and you don't have the ability to make that run and your mouth is dry or anything like that. That is just not who I want to be out there. I want to be feeling good when I'm on the pitch. Okay, this one may be TMI for you, but I like waking up early. If I've got an early match, an 8 a.m. match, I may wake up at 5:30 so I have time to do all of that stuff and use the bathroom at my house. And I'm talking about number 2. Okay. I know that might be too much information, but I can't even tell you how many times I've showed up at a pitch and there are bathrooms there, but the bathroom's locked because the field administrator didn't get there in time, or they have porta potties and they haven't refreshed the porta potties and they're out of toilet paper or something like that. Oh my gosh, that is not fun. I mean, it's like my nightmare. Like if I had to feel like I needed to go to the bathroom when I'm on the pitch, that is just not fun. Yesterday I had a game where I drank so much water and I didn't go number 1, urinate between halves. And I was like, gosh, 20 minutes left in the game. I was like, gosh, I got to go pee. But that you can deal with. If it's number 2, oh my gosh, it's going to be really hard to keep your mind on the game if you got to do that. And I know that's just sounds like, oh, it's ridiculous. But I mean, it's something I think about. It's something that, I just want to get that done so I don't have to worry about that when I'm at the pitch. So I don't know. You may be different. Maybe, it's not an issue for you, but it's something that I think about after having a number of experiences where I show up at the pitch and it's just facilities are not available for one reason or another. That's not good. I don't want to have to be going off into the woods someplace and trying to find a place to use the bathroom. That is not good. It's happened before. I don't want to do that again. So that's really, really important. Okay. So next thing for me, and this is something I've talked about before, is showing up at the field 30 to 45 minutes before your match begins for grassroots games. Now, I know for some higher level games, UPSL or something like that, or USL2, and you got a really proper crew with a 4th official or something like that, it might be an hour and a half. High school playoff game, hour and a half, something like that. But for generally grassroots games that I'm involved in, whether it's general academy stuff or recreational or ECNL, definitely MLS Next, I am at the field 45 minutes. That does not mean pulling into the parking lot 30 minutes beforehand, because by the time someone actually gets to the field or uses the bathroom, it's 20 minutes before the game or 15 minutes. I want people at the field 45 minutes in advance. And so yesterday, MLS Next, again, I'm on the field 45 minutes in advance. And the first thing that I'm doing, because the coaches are there, I'm greeting the coaches. Hey, coaches, how's it going? Whatever. And I'm starting, my pitch inspection. But you can only do that if you arrive plenty of time in advance of the match. If you don't do that, then you're going to have to sacrifice a number of the things that I'm about to go through here, which all help you prepare for a great game. And I think that's really, really, really important. So just big things to think about there. So as it relates to engaging with the coaches, so important. I cannot begin to describe how critical this is to your success during the match. The worst thing that you can do is the time that you're going to have a first conversation with a coach is when it's about a foul or it's a charge situation, someone's injured, or we've got an issue with parents or something like that, or there's dissent happening. That is the not a good first engagement with a coach. The first time we engage with a coach should be friendly. It's like, hey, coach, how's it going? I'm David. I'm going to be your referee for the day. I think it's 40-minute halves, sub in and out one time, whatever. We're going to go over all the, the key things about the match, halftime length, whatever. May ask about their season. How's everything been going for you? I mean, those are the types of things that I want to be talking about with a coach so that we build some rapport before we get on the pitch. Okay, that's important. Having a relationship. It shows that you're a professional. It shows that you're approachable. That is a good thing. You do not want that first conversation between you and a coach being one where they are yelling or they're upset, and then you have to establish some type of rapport. It's too late at that point. So I think very, very, very important that when you get to the pitch, if a coach is there, engage, talk briefly. It's just chit chat. What's going on? Talking about what's going on that day. It sets the right tone. Really important. The second thing that I think sets the right tone, and I've had coach feedback on this, is your warm up. So your warm up. So as a referee, if coaches, there's so many reasons. Okay, for you, and for me. Okay, a warm up, actually going out and doing the skips, the A skips, those dynamic stretches, the high knees, the butt kickers, those side to side moves, those lunges, all of those types of things that players would do generally before match. Well, those are the types of things that you should be doing before a match because you're going to be out there, should be out there running, working, jogging, getting yourself into the proper position to make the right call. And I can't even tell you how many times a coach has said to me out loud when I'm doing my warm up, "Oh, got a professional here today. Oh, love seeing that." I mean, literally, because they know that's what professionals do. They take their job seriously. They do their warm up so that when that first whistle goes, they are going to get in the proper position to make the right call. Can you referee from the center circle? Yes. Should you referee from the center circle? No. So that's why we do the warm up so that we're warm for as soon as that thing kicks off. It's really important. The other thing I do, and this would probably come before the warm up, is my field inspection. So as soon as I arrive at the pitch and I drop my stuff down, that's when I walk around the field. So I'm walking around the field to make sure the corner flags are in the right position, the goals are in the right position, a little bit of a net check. Maybe after I go around the field, I might come through the middle of the field, just see if there's any big divots out there, something that needs to be addressed by the field administrator or the home coaches, because sometimes those things can take a long time. So when I go do that, okay, it's a little bit of a walk for me, so it gets the blood going a little bit before I do my real warm-up, but it gives me an opportunity to inspect the pitch. And if I have a problem, if something needs to be addressed by the field administrators, I've given them plenty of notice to be able to do that so that we can start on time. I'm a big believer of starting my games on time because if I start the first game on time, the second game will start on time. And that gives me time in between the matches to rest, recover, and recuperate. So really, really important. The next one here, and this is really funny. Yesterday, I was working with two adult referees. So one gentleman who's in his late 20s and one guy who's probably my peer in terms of age. And they've been reffing for, probably, I think one of them a little over 5 years, one of them a little over 3 years, I would say, but not as much as I have. And so when I walked up to check the teams in, they were just like, whoa, so blown away with my pregame speech. And it's nothing. I mean, I don't even think about it anymore, but it takes me about 2.5 minutes, and it lets me break the ice a little bit with the teams and just set expectations for how they can engage with me. So the first thing I say is like, okay, guys, equipment check. Make sure you got your earrings, your belly rings, your nose rings, your toe rings, any ring that you might have. Get it out before we step on the pitch. Watches, stuff like that. It's easy to forget. So do that now. And it's funny. So I say that, and I throw in the belly ring and the eyebrow ring, whatever, all the other random rings out there, because it's a little bit funny, especially if you're dealing with a group of young boys or girls, doesn't matter. But they all appreciate that. And so that's a little bit of an icebreaker there, but a good reminder, because tape is not a substitute for taking those earrings out. I always remind them of that. But that takes me 10 seconds. The next thing I say is this nice, calm, professional tone of voice that I'm using to you with you right now is the exact same calm, professional tone of voice that I'm going to use with you on the pitch. So I expect you to reciprocate that thing. And so I don't mind if there's a question. Generally, you really don't understand a call every now and then, and it's an appropriate moment. I don't mind you asking me about that. Or if there's something happening that I'm not seeing, I don't mind you mentioning that. But if you're complaining on every single call, or you're constantly, dissenting every decision, I promise you there will be consequences to that. And you're certainly not going to yell at me, and we're certainly not going to argue any calls. Does that sound fair? And everyone's like, yeah, sounds fair. And so that's all I do. I don't tell them what I am going to call, what I'm not going to call, or anything like that. It's just like literally 90 seconds, 2 minutes. And I'm just trying to set the tone for how I want communication to work on the pitch, that I am approachable, that I'm humble, that I'm willing to, engage in some conversation, but I'm not going to humor. I'm not going to accept someone yelling at me or dissenting on every single call. That is unacceptable. So I just set the baseline for that. And I even, when I do my captains, I also remind them when they come up is, hey guys, you heard me earlier. If someone continues to dissent, I want you guys to deal with them before I have to deal with them. Does that sound fair? And I was like, yeah, that sounds fair. Great. So that's definitely an important thing. So after I do the check-in for the teams, the next thing I'm going to do is have a proper pregame talk with my fellow referees. So if you do not show up to the field on time, you're not going to be able to do a proper pregame. And this is really, really important. I do it every single time, even if I'm working with experienced refs. Just the little things about, hey guys, eye contact is really important for me. Even behind the play, I may turn around, give you a little thumbs up, make sure everything is good. You don't have any other information for me. We talk about being on the same page in terms of, throw-ins and goal kicks and corner kicks and what kind of indication I'm looking for from the assistant referee. We talk about offside. We talk about, when to call my name out, because I'd rather hear them call my name than a coach or parents if a flag has gone up and I don't see it, but we do a proper pregame. It might take 5 minutes. It might take 10 minutes, depending on who I'm working with and if I've worked with them before. But we do a pregame every single time. We set expectations. Also, sometimes it's new as well. There might be something that I've picked up from another referee that I want to share with these referees that I've heard recently. And so it's just something that we do. But it also allows us to build rapport. If I've not worked with you before, then, hey, cool, where are you from? Well, it's good. What do you do? It's your full-time job. I mean, the referee I worked with yesterday was fascinating. He's going to medical school and he wants to be a pilot as well. I mean, talk about an overachiever. My gosh, but fascinating stuff. You'll hear someone who's been, working at a major corporation that's really cool and has an interesting job, or they're a student. They play on a local team, whatever it is. I mean, but it allows us to get to know each other and build rapport before the match so that when we step out on that pitch, we're connected, we're tight as a crew. And I think that's so, so, so important. Really big to build rapport with your fellow referees. So I would say that the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to call our captains before kickoff. So this is important. You want to give yourself a little time for this because sometimes the captains can be, engaging in their warm up with their teams, but about 5 minutes before the whistle is supposed to blow for kickoff, then I want to be doing my captains. And that's really, really important for them. Again, bring them together. Hey guys, I do the reminder one more time. You guys are chosen as captains for a reason. I'm going to look to you guys to help keep your, players in line. If you see them getting out of hand, if someone starts dissenting, come on, jump in before I've got to come in, and there's going to be consequences. If I've got to address it, it might be a talking to, but it very well could be a yellow card for dissent, or if it's really bad, a red card. So please get in there and keep them in line. Okay. So I do that for them, and then I go ahead and I do the coin toss, but it gives me another opportunity to engage with them and build rapport. Some things that I do, again, with the coaches, again, and I mentioned this earlier, but I want to confirm my halftime length, substitution rules, and any other random league rules that may be unique to that competition. That is a big deal. Every single league I do seems to have different substitution requirements. Some leagues have rules regarding concussion subs, some don't, and sometimes it's a little bit different. There's even a different ball size now for MLS U13. They use a size 4 ball as opposed to a size 5 ball. All of those types of things. I mean, those are things that you gotta make sure you've got down before everything kicks off. So I think that's a really, really important note about that one. Another thing that I'm looking for, and I should have this, right before I do captains, but properly inflating, I'm looking for 3 balls. 3 balls. If someone only has 2, we'll deal with 2. But there are some fields that I work at that we absolutely need a minimum of 3 because we keep losing them into the forest, over a fence, all that kind of stuff. So I know that I have some fields that I ref at where I need 3 balls, and I have an automated pump, computerized one. I just hit the button. I set, the PSI to 12, whatever the league recommends or what the ball recommends. And I hit the button and it goes, and I unplug it. And I've got my ball, so I can literally be doing that while I'm doing captains or while I'm doing a check-in or something like that, or a pregame. Really, really good to do. So make sure that when you do pump up those balls, that you have those balls at the center line. You don't give them back to the team. I've actually had a situation one time where we blew up the balls, and then the coach wound up taking the balls back and was pumping them up more. I kid you not. And so we're like, Coach, hey, you can't do that. Can't do that, man. And literally he was pumping the balls up to 15. I mean, these things were rocks. Like, no. No, don't do that. I blow up the balls. I'm responsible for them. They stay right here by the center. So I think that's really important. Next thing that I do, and if I'm the center referee, I'm going to just, as I run out onto the field with my referees, I'm going to, do a little bit of a jogging around the pitch as everyone's getting set, but I'm going to look on the AR2 sideline. Again, if it's an AR2 who's experienced, they're going to know to make sure that they've got the parents back from the pitch about 6 feet. Again, I want 1 adult body length back. Not every pitch has a rope. Well, none of the pitches I work usually do, unless you're in high school and they're in the stands. But on grassroots pitches, there should be a line on the field, but oftentimes they're not. Sometimes maybe they paint at the beginning of the season and then it fades. They don't do it again. Whatever it might be. Yesterday, that was an issue for me where I had to remind the parents numerous times as the AR2 to please stay back. Kids kept encroaching, like getting close to the pitch, and please stay back. But I do that before the match. If I'm the AR, I'm looking at it, but as the center referee, I'm kind of going and I'm making sure the teams have moved all of their equipment back a required distance, and that the parent sideline, everyone's back the required distance. And if I can't run over there, I'll just mention it to everyone to make sure everyone gets back before we actually start the game. So, I mean, those are, big things or little things. They add up to big things. And again, I think the big thing again about that is that all of those things will enable you to start the match on time, and that is going to help you for the rest of the day. So I think that's a really important thing to do. And again, I think these are the types of things that will enable you to have success time and time again on the pitch. And again, if I miss any of these steps, there's consequences to that. There are consequences to that. It will affect my game in one way or another, or I'll have to deal with it when the game is actually going on. And so I think this is really important. If you can do these things in advance, they all add up to success during the match. And then I feel good, during the match. The coaches feel good during the match. Everyone's going to feel good during the match. I look like a professional. I've got credibility, and we're going to have a good time that day. So thank you so much for listening to that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit a little bit of the mailbag for the week. So I got a couple that were very interesting that I want to discuss with you guys today. Okay, so here's the first one that I received. Okay, ready, guys? All right. Hey there. Love your videos. Thank you so much, by the way. I have a question. I coach U14. How do I handle a situation where the other team is fouling our team to the point of injury and bleeding, but the ref isn't calling the fouls? Ooh. He is calling fouls on our team for smaller incidents, so it's not like he's just letting the boys play. I'm really worried about the way it impacts the outcome of the game, but I'm worried about my players getting injured. How should I handle this? Thanks. Whew. This is a really difficult one to respond to because sometimes there are challenges that are coming in that are fair or reasonable challenges, and people still get hurt. That there are injuries or people are worried about injuries, especially as those ages, move up. You start getting to U14, U15, U16, and people are faster and people are stronger. Injuries can happen. So sometimes you'll see people yelling about, protect the children. And it's really, it seems pretty reasonable contact for the level and seem like a fair challenge. And maybe it's a foul, but it's certainly not a yellow card or a red card type of thing. So the first thing I would say is that sometimes challenges happen and there's really, the ref can call a foul, but, if it's not a reckless offense or dangerous and a red card, it's part of the game. Soccer is a collision sport. There are times when people are going to go down hard, even if it's a completely fair challenge. So that's the first thing. The second thing, let's say this is legit, where the referee, for whatever reason, is just letting a lot of overly physical play to take place. So whether they are careless challenges or reckless challenges or potentially dangerous challenges, and they're not calling those fouls, they're just quote unquote letting them play, which is like, again, I've talked about this many times. I hate when someone says that to me. It drives me absolutely bananas. Letting them play. That means not making decisions or not being willing to make a call. Okay. I've seen this. I've experienced it myself as a parent. I've seen it as a referee. So what I would say, because this is going to be challenging, when you are a coach, you are obviously being seen as biased because, again, even in your email, you want to protect your players, right? You don't want them to get injured. I would encourage you, if you've built rapport, which is always really important before the match, you could gently at halftime say, hey, ref, may I have a word? And you might even call over the other coach with you. So this is not a thing just for your team. It's like, hey, the physicality of the game is getting a little beyond what we feel comfortable with. We would love it if you would, tighten up your foul calling. And it seems like some of the fouls are reckless or potentially dangerous, and they're not getting called. I don't care if it's against my team, whatever. But please, 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 would you mind calling it a little bit tighter because we're worried about, potential injury or something like that. But I would not, attack the referee. I wouldn't critique, be like, oh, on this call, why didn't you call that? Or on this call, you should have called that. Or, you're doing a terrible job. Don't make it about the referee. I would make it about the situation and your personal concern as calmly as possible. And again, I think most referees will be cool with that. I had a coach 2 weeks ago at halftime, really calmly, nicely walk up. And he said, this was very interesting. He said, hey man, I got the foul count right now at like 15-6 against us. It's like, it doesn't feel, right. And I said, coach, and I was like, thank you so much for the feedback. By the way, his count was way off and he had gotten like two, very wonderful, attacking opportunity, free kicks in the attacking third that went his way. But his team was kicking long, whereas the other team was playing the ball on the ground through the middle. And I did express that. I was like, hey, coach, when you dribble with the ball or you've got possession, you've got more of a chance to have fouls called your way. If you're playing, longer, there's less of an opportunity to, call fouls. And so I said, thank you so much for your feedback. I appreciate it. I'll keep my eyes open for it. But he approached me the right way. He gave me an observation and, I engaged him in conversation. And I think that's fine. I just think it's so important how you address the situation. And again, making sure that you're making it about, feelings, things that you feel are happening and you'd love for it to go both directions. It's not just about things that, you want called on the other team or something like that comes off overly biased. This is just such a difficult one, I have to tell you. If you do feel that after the fact that there were many things that were just not being called at all that should have been called, again, if you've got video, send that video to the assigner and to whoever your league administrator is and just say, hey, can you look at the fouls at, such and such minute, such and such minute, such and such minute? I think this referee might need some development here as to recognizing when it's a yellow card or red card offense, something like that. It's all about learning, training, and development. They may look at the video and be like, hey, man, those were, legit calls or no calls. A no call is a call. So just want to share that with you. But it can be a challenging situation. There's no doubt about that. So this is another one. I'm just going to go into the mailbag. So number 2 here, we'll just do one more today. This is here. Hey, David, fellow referee here. Can you make a video discussing dealing with rude coaches as the AR on the coach's touchline? For today, I had a coach who consistently stood on the touchline in my running path, regardless of persistent requests to move. He even tried to instigate a combative response from me throughout the match. I will deal with it fine, but younger and newer refs may not know how to deal with it. Oh my gosh, this drives me nuts. Absolutely nuts. Now, I have in my time had the center referee card a coach, yellow card a coach in the match because I asked them time and time again to not step up onto the touchline, and be in my way as I'm trying to run down the field because, again, my eyes are going to be on the play and I can't be looking ahead of me to try and avoid someone standing in my path. They need to stay, a good 2 yards back off the touchline. If there's not enough space, man, just give me a full yard because sometimes some fields can be like that. It can be really tight as to where the coaches can stand as well, especially on some high school pitches I found that are just very oddly shaped. But yeah, that is a big deal for me. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm like, hey, coach, excuse me, hey, coach, really need you to stay back. Okay, coach, now we've got a problem. I've asked you to move back. You keep coming into my path. The next time you do that, there will be consequences. And that's all I say. And then if they do it again, I'm going to stop the match. I'm going to raise my flag. I'm going to call the ref over and be like, he needs a yellow card. It's a warning. We've got a situation where he's impeding my progress, impeding my ability to do the job. Either I'm going to get hurt or he's going to get hurt. And so I need the center referee to card that coach. And that's it. It is unacceptable. They need to stay back in their bench area or technical area. They can't be up on the line. Most coaches totally get this and they just forget. They just totally forget. They don't mean anything by it. But my gosh, if someone was doing that on purpose or trying to instigate, forget it. I mean, that card is coming out very quickly on that one, and I'd have no problem sending a coach off for that. If for some reason they stepped up and they purposely were getting into my path and we had a collision, I mean, you're gone at that point. If I've given the warning, we've given a card, that is definitely a sending off offense for me because it's a safety issue. I know if I'm running my 175 pounds at my, full sprint, whatnot, and I run into someone is getting hurt. Someone is getting hurt, and it's probably going to be me. And I'm not doing that. It's not acceptable. It's not okay. So we warn, okay? Then we're going to come with a card, okay? So we're going to give them a caution, and then we will send off if that is the case. And I got no problem writing that report at all. Completely unacceptable. I'm just going to finish with one more little one here. I just saw this on my phone as I was going through. just the need to protect our young refs. He writes to me, I was 16 at my first tournament. I made so many mistakes, couldn't blow my whistle loud enough. I had a stopwatch hanging around my neck. I didn't realize I had lost time and cut a half by 5 minutes. After the game, a father decided it was appropriate to cross the field and scream at me with regard to the mistakes I made. A grown man walking up on a 16-year-old. After the game, okay, and he said, thankfully, my instructor, Bill, a 6'5" former Marine, built like a linebacker, was on hand to step between me and the father and promptly dismissed him. Man, don't we all deserve a Bill in our life, I tell you. Sadly, players, coaches, and supporters still think it's acceptable, but when the referee stands up for himself and dismisses them, the referee is then, quote unquote, thin-skinned and a tough guy. These people think it's their God-given right to abuse officials, and when that's taken away, it's the referee's fault. A lot more work needs to be done to address this. And I just thought that was, just a wonderful message. I feel so bad for so many of our young referees who have to deal with adults who don't know how to adult and think it's okay to yell at and physically intimidate a teenager on the pitch just doing their job. Just drives me nuts. Absolutely drives me nuts. I'm so glad that Bill was there. Unfortunately, 99% of our young referees do not have a Bill on the pitch with them. And what an amazing difference that would make if they did. If they did. Yeah. Just fantastic. All right, guys. Well, that is all I've got for you today. I really do hope that the experiences that I shared with you, help you in your pregame and your prep for working a match. You pick up little things all the time, and I'm always trying to add to my bag of experience to be able to do a better job when I step on the pitch. If you like the show and my content, please consider supporting me by purchasing some merch from refsneedlove2.com or the TikTok shop or the Facebook shop or the Instagram shop or any kind of shop like that. The pod, the website, my gosh, this video that I'm recording now on this new software has a cost. It's real money, but beyond my time. But I do this because I hope it enriches the content, makes it easier for you to consume, and makes it more enjoyable. So purchases from that store help me cover these costs. I want to wish you all the best on the pitch. I hope your next game is red card free. Again, if you liked out the pod, check out the blog on the website, the merch, everything. I appreciate your support, and I wish you all the best.